Hey guys, we're going to be continuing our series on Moses this week, so why don't you start by jumping straight into today's story, the parting of the Red Sea, found in Exodus chapter 13 verse 17 to 14 verses 31. You may wish to use an animated video if you prefer. We've put one in the description below and in the guide, or you can use a storybook version as well. God sometimes takes us the long way round. After the 10th plague, Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go. You would think that after all of those attempts, having finally been set free, you would take the most direct route to get as far away from the Egyptians as you possibly could. However, the Bible tells us how God did not lead his people by the shortest route, but instead took them the longer way round by the desert road towards the Red Sea. For he said, if they face war, they may change their minds and return to Egypt.
Sometimes we can think, okay, if this is what I want to do, then this is the way to get there. For example, I've always had a passion to serve the church in some way. I thought that after my gap year that I would maybe go and train as a youth worker, but I felt God lead me back to Liverpool to train as a teacher. It didn't make sense in my head at the time, as I did not see the direct route to where I thought God was leading me in the future. But now I see how he had the perfect route mapped out for my journey. What felt to me like going the long way around turned out to be just the right way. I learned so much along the way, joined this amazing church, and God opened the door just at the right time for me to walk through. God sometimes leads us a longer way around in order to strengthen and deepen our faith and trust in him. Initially, our faith can be a bit fragile and not as firm as we think. During the longer way on my journey, God definitely tested and grew my faith and trust and taught me to have a greater reliance on him. God leads the Israelites the longer way round to show them his great might and demonstrate that he is trustworthy. God's timing is different to ours, and just like what we looked at with Joseph, we can only see our little small bit of the picture, but God sees the full thing, and sometimes he has more to do in us and grow in us, so it takes us the longer way round.
Maybe right now in lockdown, it feels like a bit of a detour on your journey. Discuss one thing each that you think God may be doing during this time. How he might be growing your trust or faith in him. Write it on a piece of paper as small as you can. If you have a magnifying glass, you can use this to see the writing become clearer, or if not, draw a magnifying glass and rewrite it nice and clearly as a reminder that God is going to make that part of him more clear and visible for you in your life during this time.
Sometimes, like the Israelites, we can face things in our lives where we feel like there is no way forward or where we feel trapped. For example, these might be things like an illness or a tricky time in school or a hard time with friends or something that we're scared of.
We can feel in these moments a bit like we're facing the big sea, and we can look behind us and just like the Israelites turned back and saw the Egyptian army coming after them, we look behind us and sometimes see our fears and our worries chasing after us.
Yet God provides a way through the sea. He calls Moses to raise his staff towards the sea, and as he does, the Lord parts it and his people walk safely through. He then closes the passage so that the Egyptians can't reach him. The Israelites look back and see their enemy defeated.
Imagine the relief and the joy that must have been felt by the Israelites during this moment as they look and see the people that had enslaved them and treated them harshly being well and truly defeated. It's a little bit like in a superhero movie where the bad guy tries to do everything he possibly can to win, but we all know that eventually the good guy will pull through. If you've seen a couple of superhero movies, you will begin to realise that no matter what tension you may feel during the film, even if you can't see how at this particular point in the movie, you know that the good guy is gonna win. And that's what God is doing here for the Israelites. He's building up for them all these amazing stories that they can look back on and realise when we put our trust in the Lord, he always wins, he always pulls through, and he always makes a way.
But when the Israelites look back and they see that not only did the Lord free them from their enemy, but defeated their enemy, at the end of Exodus 14, it says how they put their trust in the Lord and in Moses as their leader. This was essential in order for God to use them the way He wanted in the future. God took them the long way round, but for a real purpose. God told Moses to raise his staff and he would part the sea. God calls us to pray when we face things that block our way. God is able to make a way, and He is also able to drown our fears, worries and troubles. Why don't you pause and spend a couple of moments discussing how you think this links to Jesus?
This story also reminds us of how Jesus came and made a way for us to pass through into relationship with Him. It looked bleak. No matter how hard the people of God kept trying to follow His commands and to put their trust in Him, they just kept failing.
God sends Jesus, who was raised on a cross, to part the sea of our sin that was blocking us from having a right relationship with Him. He parts that divide and makes a way for us to pass through when we put our trust in Him.
And as we walk through to Jesus, He closes the gap behind us, just like God closed the gap on the Egyptians. All of our past mistakes, all of the things that we get wrong have been washed over by His blood poured out for us. Jesus made a way for us to be free from the sin that enslaves us.
As the Israelites are afraid as they see the Egyptians chasing after them and are cut off by the sea and see no escape, Moses says to them in Exodus 14 verse 13, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still."
And this is the truth now. It is God who fights our battles for us. We need only trust in Him and be still. When we are faced with a difficult situation that seems to block our way through, we can trust and turn to Jesus, knowing that He will make a way through and He will rescue us. He will fight for us.
We often talk about how God led the Israelites out of Egypt, but He literally did. It says that He went before them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And when the Egyptians are chasing after them from behind, that pillar of cloud and fire moves behind them to protect them. This is an amazing visible sign of God's presence being with them and leading them through all.
And while this is amazing, it is still something that is at a distance. But when Jesus died on a cross and rose again to life, He sent His very presence, His Holy Spirit, to dwell inside us and lead and guide us from within. And that is truly amazing, because not only do we get to know God's leading and guiding, but we can also know His closeness and His love from deep within us.
We have the Holy Spirit to guide and lead us and to make a way forward where there seems no way, and to protect us. Why not grab a piece of paper and fold it to represent the closed sea? Write over it something that you feel blocks your way, or you feel overwhelmed by, or you find scary, or you think you won't be able to break through. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit to make a way forward, and as you do, open the flaps and draw yourself walking through as a reminder that Jesus is the way maker.